Hey all, Tom Moran here from Tom's Big Spiders. Well, this is the oft-requested, long-awaited Pamphobeteus episode. I've had probably a request every week since I started doing videos for Pamphobeteus. They are incredibly popular in the hobby. A lot of different quote-unquote species out there available. A lot of people grabbing them up and want to make sure that, having spent probably a good deal of money on them, that they raise theirs up to adulthood correctly. So I've been promising one for years, but I've been having a very difficult time getting footage of all mine. Well, this summer I was finally able to get footage of all three of my females so I could actually put this video together. I'd actually done a couple podcasts on Pamphobeteus in the past, but I've been waiting until I could get some images to share with them, because I think that part of the appeal of these species is just their beautiful appearance, whether it be the incredibly bold and purple males that sport a variety of bright colors, or whether it be some of just the big bulky females that just look amazing in person and get to be rather huge sizes, which is always something folks that are getting into the hobby seek out and are impressed with. I know when I first got into the hobby, my goal was to find all the absolute biggest tarantulas out there, and these guys definitely fit the bill of being some of the biggest tarantulas available. So enough talking, let's take a look at my female Pamphobedia species Duran, Pamphobedia species Arana pollito, and Pamphobedia species Antonus, and learn about their care. Okay, so let's kick this one off with some footage of my adult female Pamphobeteus species Duran, who molted recently and is sporting a brilliant new coloration. Most of the footage you'll be seeing coming up is from June and July of 2022 after her most recent shed, and she is now pushing 9 inches. I picked up 2 slings of this species late in 2013, and at that time they were displaying that striking Christmas tree pattern on their abdomens that really make Pampho slings gorgeous. Early on, they were shy and skittish, but excellent hunters. The male matured in 2016 and was one of the most beautiful spiders I have ever seen. In this old footage here, you can see that he sported some brilliant pinks and purples. Sadly, these blurry old images do not do this specimen justice. I love purple spiders, and to date I have never had another spider top this one in terms of beauty. My female also went through a pink and purple period from about 4 inches to 6 inches or so. As you can see in this footage here, she is still showing some purples, and her carapace is an amazing metallic salmon orange coloration. After her next molt, she took on more of a brown tone that she kept for several years. Although there are many amazing photos out there of purple and pink Pamphos, keepers should be aware that those are usually the mature males. The females will eventually lose the more flamboyant colors. However, although the females may not keep the blues, the purples, and the pinks, they go through a myriad of color changes as they go through juvenile and adult stages that really make them beautiful nonetheless. So let's take a moment to talk about Pamphlbedia Slingcare. Pamphobedia species grow quite quickly, so keepers may want to give them a bit of extra room to accommodate for this. I started mine in 16-ounce or 0.5 liter deli cups, although something 2 quarts or more for larger slings would work as well. Generally, if you're getting more well-started slings, you'll want to start them in a larger enclosure. I also included a couple inches of moist substrate, a corkbark hide, some sphagnum moss, and a water dish. I also gave mine starter burrows, as slings will burrow. In fact, I found that if given enough substrate to work with, many Pamphos will burrow right on through into adulthood. Although some folks keep their adults dry, slings definitely appreciate moisture. I would always keep mine moist and make sure that they had water dishes and moist sphagnum moss. Although I've read care sheets that say that Pamphobedia species need to be kept at higher temperatures, that has not been my experience. When I got my P. Antonus and Pamphobedia species Durans, my tarantula room would be between 68 and 72 degrees Fahrenheit or 20 to 22 degrees Celsius. They all ate and grew quickly during that period. Now in my new tarantula room, my temps are generally 73 in the winter with occasional drops to the high 60s, while in the summer it's usually in the upper 70s to lower 80s, with some days even reaching 90 degrees. As far as feeding is concerned, Pamphos are voracious eaters. My slings all ate great and took down small to medium crickets or roaches from the get-go. Once they hit about 2 inches, don't be surprised if they will accept larger crickets, mealworms, or B. lateralis roaches. When they were slings, I would feed mine twice a week, although a less aggressive feeding schedule would work just fine. So here we have my Pamphobedia species Duran eating. This is one of my favorite spiders in my collection. When I first picked up mine, there wasn't a lot of information out there about them, and I couldn't even find photos of adult specimens. So it was really a lot of fun watching mine mature. Again, that male, there's nothing that's ever going to beat that as far as I'm concerned. That was one of the most splendid things I've ever seen in my life. And the females kept those pinks for quite some time, and even when she moved on into brown and other colors, it's always been a pleasure to see her molt. In fact, with the last molt she had, I don't know when the last time I was that excited to see what a tarantula was going to look like after molting, because she's been a long time brown, and, well, let's just say it was totally worth the wait. So for folks who have a chance to pick these up, they seem to be a little more prevalent these days. I would highly recommend them. Now, next up, we have some footage of my young adult female Pamphlbedius Arana pollito, or the chicken spider. This girl has been very shy and reclusive her entire life, and even though she is now around 8 inches, she still hides in her burrow. As luck would have it, I actually managed to catch her out this summer to catch some footage, because normally as soon as I get anywhere near her enclosure, she bolts to her burrow to hide. So we should probably thank her for posing for a bit so we could actually see what she looked like. Now, I had heard about the so-called chicken spiders years ago through a news article and had vowed to one day keep them. The unusual common name likely came from photos that circulated online of a large black spider scavenge feeding on a dead adult chicken. Even cooler, perhaps, is that this Peruvian species of Pamphobeteus has been observed living communally with adults, juveniles, and slings sharing a burrow. Several years ago, after I posted a video featuring my Pamphobedia species Arana pollitos, I was contacted by someone who actually had footage of them out in the wild, and I got to see photos of them living together. Really mind-boggling stuff. Back in October of 2017, I picked up 2 3 to 4 inch juveniles, and they were already sporting some of their adult colors. At that time, I housed them both in Exoterra breeding boxes, which measure about 8 by 12 by 6 inches deep. That said, juveniles continue to put on good size with each molt, so larger specimens could easily be kept in enclosures that offer more room. I know many keepers that prefer to use the Exoterra minis, which are 12 inch or 35.5 centimeter cubes, to house their mid-sized specimens. When my P. Antonus was that size, I actually housed her in a large critter keeper. Again, they will burrow, so give them several inches of moist substrate, a hide or two, sphagnum moss, and a water dish. Although my Pamphos all lived rather fossorially during this point in their life cycles, they were also rather visible. Despite using burrows, they would usually park themselves right at the burrow entrance or often right in front of the burrows. So anytime I crept up into the tarantula room in the evening or morning, I usually had a very good shot of seeing mine out in all their glory. Now granted, as soon as I tried to get lights or a camera on them, they usually bolted right back to their burrows to hide. As far as feeding juveniles is concerned, again, these are voracious spiders, so they will take a variety of prey items. Juveniles will easily take down adult crickets, superworms, roaches, or locusts. At this point, I usually feed mine about once a week or so, but again, a less aggressive schedule is perfectly fine. As for temperament, mine have all been skittish and shy. Slings can be particularly bolty, and as very long-legged specimens, they can really move. So keepers that aren't used to keeping faster specimens really need to be on guard during rehousings and during care. However, if provided with burrows, they will usually immediately bolt to the burrow, which prevents them from getting out of the enclosure. Now, all of mine tended to calm down a bit, especially once they hit around 3 to 4 inches, but they could still be a little bit bolty and quite shy. And even now that they are adults and young adults, they generally do not stay out in the open when disturbed. They will usually run to their hides to get away from me when I try to open up their enclosures to do feeding or maintenance. As far as hair kicking is concerned, they could be a little more prone to kicking hairs as slings and juveniles. And my Pamphlbedius species Duran actually went through a little period where they would kick when I would open the enclosure. But all 3 species that I keep have outgrown that, and I have never had one of my adult specimens kick hairs at me. And finally, here we have my biggest girl, my adult Panthebedius Antonus. I picked this beauty up in 2013, and she was actually my introduction to the genus Pamphobeteus. Throughout her lifespan, she has gone through several color changes. As you can see in this footage here from April of 2016, she had spent several years sporting a lighter brown overall coloration. I know some people aren't fans of the quote-unquote big brown spiders, but this beefy babe has always been a favorite of mine. However, after her next molt in November of 2016, those browns gave way to the sleek, velvety black coloration seen here. I'm not going to lie, I find black spiders to be quite gorgeous, so I was 100% okay with this color change. She kept the jet black tones for another molt before reverting ultimately back to brown again, as seen in this footage here. Now, as luck would have it, when I tried to feed her for this video, she wasn't eating. A few hours later, I found her flipped over for an unexpected molt. Luckily, I was able to pluck out the roaches so that she could molt uninterrupted and without fear of being attacked while she was vulnerable. Feeders can be attracted to the moisture generated during a molt, and some have even bitten and chewed freshly molted tarantulas. When I returned the next morning to check on her progress, I discovered not only had she molted, but she had again reverted to black, this time with some striping on her legs. I have really found the color changes this genus goes through, even as adults, to be quite amazing and surprising. I am honestly never quite sure what my spiders are going to look like when they molt. Now, a lot has been made about the maximum size of Pamphobedia species, and many folks will put them in the same league as Theraphosa. Bottom line, Pamphos are big, leggy spiders that can easily reach sizes of 8 to 9 inches or 20 to 23 centimeters. As you can see in this footage here, I was able to get a measurement on this girl's molt, and it was an impressive 8.5 inches. That means that my girl is easily 9 inches and one of the largest spiders in my collection. Can they get larger? Last year I had someone send me a photo of a 9+ inch P. Antonus molt, so 10 inches is definitely not unattainable. Although I found that Theraphosa species will usually grow a bit faster once they reach the 5-inch mark, that's not to say that the Pamphlebedius can't give them a run for their money with their sheer size. Now, for adult housing, you're going to want something in the 10 to 15 gallon range that offers a good amount of floor space. Although many folks keep their Pamphlebedius species as terrestrials, many will continue to burrow through adulthood. In the very least, they should be given a good hide with enough substrate to allow them to dig it out a bit. Both my Pamphobedia species Duran and Arana pollito still use their hides and do some burrowing. My Pamphobedia Arana pollito is currently in a 16 by 12 by 10 inch high primal cage, while my other two are in more shallow enclosures that offer about 190 square inches of surface area. That said, larger enclosures offering more floor space and a safe amount of height will also work. Right now, I'm eyeing a 15 gallon for my Pamphobedia Antonus. Now, over the years, I've received a lot of questions from keepers who are interested in keeping Pamphobedia species, but have heard that they are moisture dependent and worry about their ability to keep a spider that needs moisture. Back in the day, Pamphobedia species were thought to be very moisture dependent, and that was actually a deterrent to me when I first got into the hobby. However, I found that this genus is quite hardy and adaptable, and I've spoken to many folks to keep their adults dry with large water dishes. As mentioned earlier, I always keep my Pamphlbedia slings and juveniles moist and give them a water dish. As for my adults, I do let their enclosures dry out a bit in the warm, more humid summer months, but always provide them with a moist corner in the drier winter months. I also give them all large water dishes, which serve as a source of water for them to drink and of moisture as the water evaporates into the enclosure. Now, the big question, are Pamphobedia species good beginners? Although Pamphos are easy to care for, hardy, and grow quickly, their skittish temperaments and size can be intimidating to new keepers. As a result, most would argue that folks attempting to keep Pamphos should have some experience under their belts. If you have your rehousings down and feel comfortable working with faster, skittish spiders, you'll probably do quite well with the Pamphobedia species. When you consider their awesome size, amazing color changes, and general hardiness and ease of care, it's easy to see why Pamphobedia species remain some of the most popular spiders in the tarantula hobby today. So really glad I could finally put this video together. This one has been on my list. I always put lists together of videos that people have requested. It's been on that list for quite a few years now, so it feels good to finally get it out there and hope people appreciate it. And again, the care across the board for the Pampthebedius is generally the same. I know people will find these weird species names out there and be like, is this one different than, say, an Antonus or a species Duran? Keep them the same way. You'll do just fine with them. And of course, that is one of the big issues with Pampthebedius genus right now, is it is in desperate need of a taxonomical revision. We need people to look at these animals and figure out what we have, because we have a lot of different quote-unquote species being offered in the pet trade that are just named after the locale they were found in. We're not sure if they are actually different species or just different colorations or regional variants of ones that have already been described. So for a lot of us, it can be scary to shell out huge gobs of money for something that may end up just being another version of Antonus. And this isn't just a problem with Pampthebedius. It's also a problem right now with Xenestus species, and more recently with Formictopus, where we're seeing all these new species flood the market and nobody really knows what they are. Really doesn't matter though, because what you're going to get in one way or another is a big, beautiful spider, and I think that's what attracts everybody to these guys. So a note about Sling Enclosure, I just want to make this clear. Usually with slings, you can start them in 16-ounce deli cups, and with smaller Pamphobedia species, that's perfectly okay. But just recognize sometimes when folks are selling them, they're a little bit larger, so you may want to upgrade the enclosures a little bit, give them something with a little bit of space. They will grow into it very quickly. And again, don't be worried when they burrow. I've had many folks contact me, they get a new Pamphobedia sling, they put it in the enclosure and it disappears. That is totally normal behavior, and I've found, quite frankly, that a lot of them, if given the space, will burrow right on through adulthood, and I don't think that point should be lost. And I'm actually going to rehouse my Antonus into something that gives her some more depth, so hopefully we'll see if she'll exercise more of those burrowing traits. She did give it up, and I did give her in her last enclosure quite a bit of room to burrow. She kind of gave it up, but she does use her hide, so we'll see. Something to keep in mind. So that will do it for this one. As always, if you liked it enough to subscribe, very much appreciate. Click the little circle up in here. If you want to check out more videos, I will put them over in here. If you take the time to comment, no, I will take the time to respond. Just know it can take me a couple days. That'll do it for this one, guys. As always, stay safe. We'll catch you all next time.